So you're finished with your academic training. Congratulations. Do you know what the next step is? Are you looking for direction in ministry?
Basically, I was finishing college and I was just looking for somewhere to serve. I didn't really care where, but just wanted to go somewhere and do something for the Lord, and found out about this program and talked to Pastor Boffman, and he and I just really seemed to hit it off really well. The Lord kind of put our hearts together, and same with the other staff. And then I came down here for a visit one Sunday and saw the services and heard Pastor Boffman preach, and the Lord just gave me peace and direction and said, this is where you need to go, and I'm grateful that I did.
I was beginning to question my calling into ministry. It seemed like everything that I was involved in was filled with difficulty and trouble, and I began to wonder if this is really what God wanted me to do with my life.
We were frustrated with where we were. We were trying to get started on deputation. We were trying to get things rolling, and we just kind of felt stuck. And so it was at that point that I realized something needed to change, something needed to be shook up or enhanced or improved.
No one is completely ready to handle the responsibility of full-time ministry without growth into the person of Christ.
Many guys forfeit the internship part, the residency part, thinking that the seminary training is adequate. I would have made so many mistakes in ministry. I would have made so many more mistakes in ministry if I had not done the residency here.
Each of these men had already trained for ministry. Some were already married. Some were headed into foreign missions, others into church planting. Others just knew they were called into pastoral ministry. None of them knew exactly what the next step was. Then they found the Ministry Apprenticeship Program. The goal of MAP Ministry is to prepare qualified candidates to fulfill their personal calling in the local church.
MAP Ministry is patterned after a medical residency. A medical student will receive their education. They will have then oversight by experienced medicine practitioners before they then go into their own practice. And that really is what we're trying to do. Men who have received theological education, then they will receive oversight while in ministry with experienced practitioners, and then they will be prepared to become practitioners in their own right.
Every sermon you write, every book that you read, every meeting you have with ministry peers, every week that you serve at Stanley Heights is another chance to learn and to grow.
The MAP program prepared me for ministry in very specific ways. You read a stack of books while you're here, you do ministry papers while you're here on positions, you even write policy documents while you're here. And so I'm responsible for the missions ministry of our church. And I would have no idea where to start with that, except that I had a policy document that gave me a huge head start.
One of the best things was just the discipline of preparing multiple sermons every week. And one of the best things to help me with that were there were different men in the church that were available to me, and they critiqued my sermons every week, which was a little bit intimidating, but they were able to help me and give me pointers and sharpen me as a preacher.
Well, when I was in college, I had the opportunity to be involved in many ministries, but there is a huge difference between just being part of a ministry where everything sort of rises or falls on the other guy, instead of you yourself taking leadership in a ministry and making it actually happen and work with the Lord's blessing.
One of the things that MAP Ministry taught me that really helped prepare me for the ministry we're going into is my own weaknesses, because I personally struggled a lot with organization and discipline in those kinds of areas, and I didn't even realize it until I came here, and then I had opportunities to see how things are done here, and then I was challenged to stretch and to improve.
Located in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Stanley Heights Baptist Church is privileged to have a host of experienced men who have been pastors, church planters, and foreign missionaries. These men are dedicated to enriching the MAP experience and to challenging MAP residents to growth in leadership, ministry, and personhood. MAP residents complete their program ready to take the next step.
I had the opportunity to learn from many seasoned people in Christian ministry that was great for my spiritual growth.
Stanley Heights has a wealth of resources in wisdom. There are people here who are willing to help you, they're available to help you, and they have been in the ministry for years. And having access to these men is one of the best things that helped me to learn. And whether they were critiquing a sermon or teaching me about leadership or teaching me about time management, their involvement in my life was one of the best things that helped me to grow as a person and as a minister here while I was in the MAP program.
When you come out of Bible college, you're often thinking of, okay, well, I'm just going to go pastor a church, or I'm just going to go be a missionary. But then when people start asking you questions, well, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to preach. I'm going to teach the Bible. But having a vision and goals and a plan to reach that vision, and that was one thing that I learned here was seeing this MAP program and seeing how beneficial it was to me. That one of our goals in going over to England to reach the deaf is to plant a deaf church that can do this over there for deaf and people going to reach the deaf.
One of the things the MAP residency program helped me with the most was probably leadership, learning leadership lessons from the pastoral staff. And the reason for that is because I got to work with the pastoral staff day in, day out, 24/7, and just rub shoulders with them and watch as they handled problems in the church and how they handled successes in the church, watched as they recruited leaders, as they equipped leaders, and you just got to learn leadership lessons from Pastor Boffman in particular.
And each married resident found value for his wife and family too.
In the MAP ministry, we learned how to try to involve our whole family in the different activities that we were involved in as a couple.
We were able to serve at Stanley Heights by getting involved in the deaf ministry. We interpreted for the deaf. The Bible club in the public schools was huge. That was an enormous ministry and a great opportunity to get the gospel to kids who hadn't heard before.
Partway through the MAP program, I was able to start taking over some of the duties as nursery director, so that was helpful in preparing me for being involved in that ministry of the church.
It was a great relief to come to the apartment and seeing that it was fully furnished. We didn't have dressers or tables or couch, and it was all ready and available for us to use.
I think it was comforting knowing we were coming to a place that was going to take care of our needs at the same time as Ed could prepare for the ministry. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we would be taken care of. The church was wonderful and our accommodations were great.
One of the things that make us unique is the commitment that we're willing to make. The commitment of providing a salary, the commitment of providing housing, the commitment of week by week, day by day investing of ourselves in men. We don't look at this as this is a guy that we want to come and do the things that nobody else wants to do. We don't look at this as we want this guy to run our ministry for us and our people don't do it. We look at this as this man is coming to be a partner with us, and in the time that he is here, we are sharing with him our burden and the responsibilities and letting him grow in this with our people. Personal growth, that's what it's about. We want that man to grow as a man, as a believer, as a servant of the Lord, to grow in every dimension of his life, and we as a congregation are committed to men for their growth.
One thing I did learn from Pastor Boffman was having that kind of attitude, because he's not perfect, and he doesn't pretend to be, and he actively works to learn to grow. Growth. That's something that gets drilled into your head when you're here, is growth. You have to grow. You're growing as a person, because if you're not growing, you're dead. And just that kind of attitude of I'm not perfect, I'm not this all-encompassing pastor or missionary or minister. I have weaknesses, but that's not an excuse either. I have to be humble enough to admit them and then learn to overcome them.
MAP ministry really gave me an opportunity and forced me as well to come out of my shell as a person. I'm naturally a very reserved person, but very quickly when I got here, I learned that you can't just be in a bubble and expect to be in the ministry. You have to be out and somewhat outgoing, even when that's not comfortable. So God used the MAP ministry here to help me to develop more personal skills, interpersonal skills, to help with people and to disciple them and to talk to them and to build relationships with them and connect with people.
In addition to theological education, I needed the environment for spiritual mentorship to grow to be more the person Christ wants me to be.
This is going to be intensive, it's going to be challenging, it's going to be difficult, but so is ministry. And that's why this is such a key preparation for ministry.
A man must first be tested before he can be trusted. Who you are affects your ministry more than what you do. If what you do is not backed up by who you are, then your ministry will suffer.
Ministry is not a technique, it's not a method, but ministry is people. And if we're going to be in ministry, we're going to have a heart for people.
If you're a man who is passionate for the Lord, if you're a man who is serious about your growth, if you're a man who is willing to be invested in and willing to be taught, if you're a man who is willing to put the kind of work into your life so that you can be fruitful for a lifetime of ministry, then you're the kind of man that we want to invest in.